Now we'll finish this lesson over talking about selecting a power supply. There's different options that exist for purchasing a power supply. Make sure that you have a good feeling of the type of power you need for your power supply. For most computers, they're going to come with a already built-in power supply. Your off-the-shelf ones that you buy generally are going to have this because they want to be ready to come off the shelf, go into the home, be plugged in, and start up. So the only reason you ever really need a power supply is one of three reasons. You're just building a new system from scratch. You're an enthusiast and you want to build your own computer. Perhaps your power supply in an existing unit failed, then you would need to buy a new one. Or you've added some components along the way in your computer that now require more power, so you might need a new power supply in your existing system because it's no longer adequate to power the video cards that you've put in there, the fans that you've put in. You now need more power. So to make sure that you select the right power supply, you need to figure out how to calculate the wattage capacity. And you need to know what form factor you're using. You need to know what type of power connectors, power cables that are coming from your power supply unit that you need for your motherboard or the components that you've got. One of the last things you want to think about too are the fans that you have inside the power supply unit. Is it going to be enough? And what about the warranty? Generally speaking, buying the more expensive one, the larger power supply with the longer warranty, in general terms, it's usually better, but the failure rate for power supply units in a typical computer is not very high. So it depends on what type of computer needs you have and what all is going to be inside the computer. So just think about all those different factors when you're considering a new power supply. So how do you calculate wattage capacity? You need to determine all the components inside the case, how often they're going to be used, what about any type of USB or FireWire devices that are going to be getting their power from the ports that are connected to the motherboard. Make sure you think about, okay, I'm going to be putting a high-end video card in. Maybe that's something you need to calculate as well, because having the factory supplied power supply unit just isn't enough. On general, try to calculate your wattage capacity to be 30% more than what you're using. That way, if you need to expand on something, put another device in later or two, you don't have to replace your power supply unit again. So take a look at that. Here's a sample of what all you might be looking at for your approximate wattages on different devices. You can see that your fans generally can take about 5 watts. Just a basic SATA hard drive, 35 watts. If you've got a Blu-ray or DVD player, they obviously take a little bit more than the CD-ROM. So make sure you list everything, find out their approximate wattages, add all that up, add about 30% to that, then you're ready to go ahead and buy a new power supply unit. Well guys, that's it for working inside a computer. You know how to take apart a computer, put one back together, how to make sure you keep it free of dust and the effects that dust can cause, the different types of cooling abilities you have for keeping your computer cool and free from overheating and causing component failure, as well as getting the right power supply if you're building a computer or replacing a power supply unit, or if one goes out, so you make sure you have the correct power supply unit for your computer. Thanks for joining along. I'll see you in Chapter 3.